Greetings, Seekers, and welcome to the Library of Divine Echoes. I'm your host, Christopher Little, and today we'll be discussing the Celtic Pantheon as an esoteric framework for spiritual growth and sovereign abundance. In the quiet, contemplative corners of the digital world, the Library of Divine Echoes serves as a sanctuary for those seeking the whispers of timeless wisdom. Dedicated to bridging the profound chasm between rational, empirical knowledge, the logos, and deep narrative truth, the mythos. The profound truths sought by practitioners of witchcraft, magic, and mysticism are rarely found in the chaotic noise of the modern epoch. Rather, they are gently echoed from history, accessible through meditation, and discovered within the quiet, sovereign spaces of the human heart. It is our humble belief that self-improvement and spirituality are inextricable, requiring a rigorous synthesis of ancient cosmology and modern psychological resilience. The esoteric traditions of the ancient Celts offer a profound psychological and spiritual architecture that remains radically applicable to the modern practitioner. Far from being a closed relic of a forgotten European past, the Celtic Pantheon represents a living, breathing framework of archetypal energies that map perfectly onto the universal human psyche. When viewed through the lens of analytical psychology, particularly the psychological archetypes of Carl Jung and the esoteric art of alchemy, these deities cease to be mere mythological figures. Instead, they become dynamic blueprints for self-actualization, resilience, and spiritual empowerment. The knowledge encoded within the myths of the Tuatha De Danann applies to seekers from every cultural background that exists in human society today. The fundamental human experiences of grief, joy, limitation, and the desire for abundance are universal. Therefore, the technologies of consciousness developed by the ancient Philae, seers, and Druids can be utilized by anyone, regardless of their ancestral DNA or geographic location. No matter the specific religious or spiritual background of the practitioner, the universal laws embedded in these traditions offer a pathway to genuine spiritual growth, harmony, and an unshakable growth mindset. This comprehensive guide is designed to serve as a masterclass in applied Celtic esotericism, culminating in a guided contemplative state intended to span the duration of a full meditative practice. By synthesizing the ancestral wisdom of Celtic Druidry with the universal axioms of Hermetic philosophy, practitioners at all levels of skill, from the neophyte lighting their first candle to the master performing complex theurgy, will discover practical techniques to cultivate abundance, harmonize their inner and outer worlds, and navigate the inevitable challenges of the human experience with unwavering sovereignty. The foundation of any robust esoteric practice requires a rigorous understanding of the structural laws that govern the universe. In the Western esoteric tradition, these laws are most clearly articulated in the 7 Hermetic principles, famously codified in the Kabbalion and attributed to the ancient figure of Hermes Trismegistus, who was recognized by the Greeks as Hermes and by the Egyptians as Thoth, the god of wisdom. While Hermeticism originated in the Hellenistic synthesis of Greek and Egyptian thought in the early centuries of the Common Era, its universal truths are identical to the cosmological principles embedded in the symbols, myths, and magical practices of the ancient Celts. Recognizing this intersection allows the modern practitioner to utilize Celtic symbols not merely as a decorative art or cultural markers, but as a geometric engines of manifestation, psychological transformation, and conscious evolution. By mapping the 7 Hermetic principles onto the lore of the Celtic Pantheon, the practitioner gains a multidimensional understanding of how reality is constructed and, more importantly, how it can be consciously altered through applied magic. Synthesizing Hermetic laws with Celtic esoteric symbolism. The Hermetic principle. 1. Mentalism. Principle definition. The all is mind, the universe is mental. All phenomenal reality springs from the fertile soil of consciousness. Corresponding Celtic symbol and mythic equivalent. The Awen, the 3 rays of divine inspiration, symbolizing the descent of divine thought into manifestation. Esoteric application for the practitioner. Recognizing that physical reality is a projection of internal beliefs, the practitioner uses the Awen to spark creative transmutation, shifting internal narratives to alter physical circumstances. The Hermetic principle. 2. Correspondence. Principle definition. As above, so below. As below, so above. As within, so without. The macrocosm reflects the microcosm. Corresponding Celtic symbol and mythic equivalent. The tree of life. Cran Betah. Roots deeply anchored in the underworld, branches stretching into the heavens. Esoteric application for the practitioner. Establishing the micro-macro connection, the practitioner understands that healing internal traumas simultaneously heals external relationships and environment. The Hermetic principle. 3. Vibration. Principle definition. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. Inertia is an illusion. All matter is energy in motion. Corresponding Celtic symbol and mythic equivalent. The Triskull, the continuous dynamic spiraling unity of earth, water, and fire. Esoteric application for the practitioner. Adjusting personal energetic frequency, shifting from states of fear, dense vibration, to states of abundance, high vibration, through deliberate ritual action and focus. The Hermetic principle. 4. Polarity. Principle definition. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Opposites are identical in nature, differing only in degree. Corresponding Celtic symbol and mythic equivalent. The Dagda's Club, Log Maw. The capacity to inflict death with one end and resurrect life with the other. Esoteric application for the practitioner. Reconciling paradoxes, integrating the shadow self rather than rejecting it, recognizing that fear and courage, or destruction and creation, are dual aspects of a single force. Hermetic principle. 5. Rhythm. Principle definition. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. Corresponding Celtic symbol and mythic equivalent. The Dagda's harp. Uaithne, the magical living oak instrument that commands the shifting of the seasons and emotions. Esoteric application for the practitioner. Surrendering to natural cycles, using periods of energetic winter for deep rest and incubation rather than forcing summer productivity and risking spiritual burnout. Hermetic principle. 6. Cause and effect. Principle definition. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. Corresponding Celtic symbol and mythic equivalent. The Geis taboo and Luf's spear. The karmic inevitability of spiritual oaths and the precision of aligned, focused action. Esoteric application for the practitioner. Escaping the role of the victim by becoming the conscious cause of one's reality, taking radical responsibility for both magical and mundane actions. Hermetic principle. 7. Gender. Principle definition. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Corresponding Celtic symbol and mythic equivalent. The divine marriage, sovereignty and the king. The synthesis of the Morrigan, sovereignty of the land, and the Dagda, the provider. Esoteric application for the practitioner. Balancing the assertive structural will, masculine principle, with the receptive intuitive flow, feminine principle, within the practitioner's own psyche to achieve holistic mastery. The profound utility of mapping Hermetic principles to Celtic symbols lies in the extraction of second and third order insights that move beyond mere intellectual philosophy into the realm of operative magic. When examining the principle of mentalism through the lens of the Awen, the three rays of light symbolizing poetic inspiration and divine breath, the first order understanding is the basic manifestation concept that thoughts are creative. The second order insight is that language, particularly the rhythmic, carefully crafted poetry of the Celtic File, bards and seers, acts as a direct programming language for the matrix of reality. In the Celtic worldview, words do not merely describe the world, they actively conjure it into being. The third order insight reveals that by consciously controlling the internal narrative, the mythos one tells oneself about one's own life, trauma, and potential, the practitioner fundamentally alters their neurological state, their energetic vibration, and subsequently the quantum probability of their external world. This is the essence of the growth mindset, the absolute conviction that the mental universe is malleable and subject to the sovereign will of the practitioner. Similarly, the principle of rhythm, perfectly mirrored in the Dagda's living oak harp, Uenya, dictates that all phenomena experience cyclical rise and fall, and endless pendulum swing between extremes. The modern practitioner, conditioned by capitalist and industrial paradigms, often suffers from the delusion of perpetual linear growth, leading inevitably to burnout, despair, and spiritual exhaustion. The third-order esoteric application of the Dagda's harp requires the practitioner to accurately identify the current season of their spiritual and material life. When the Hermetic pendulum swings towards retreat, loss, and decay, the psychological winter, the master practitioner does not resist or panic. Instead, they actively lean into the rest, utilizing the shadow phase to incubate the seeds of future abundance. This conscious surrender neutralizes the suffering associated with the downward swing of the pendulum, transforming periods of darkness into powerful crucibles for future illumination. In the esoteric application of Celtic witchcraft and spirituality, the deities of the Tuatha De Danann are not necessarily viewed as external, anthropomorphic entities sitting on a distant cloud demanding subservience. Rather, they are approached as a vast, polyvalent field of consciousness, embodying the fundamental forces of nature and the human psyche. To invoke a deity in this framework is to resonate with their specific vibrational frequency, thereby activating the dormant archetypal equivalent within the practitioner's own soul. The Dagda, known in the lore as An Dagda Mor, the great good god, and Altair, Allfather, represents the unyielding terrestrial power of abundance, fertility, physical vitality, and divine masculinity. He is described as a large, earthy, bearded figure who wears simple clothing, reflecting an intrinsic closeness to the land and a deep appreciation for the physical pleasures of existence. In modern spiritual practice, the Dagda is ultimate antidote to the pervasive, culturally conditioned disease of scarcity mindset. His primary esoteric symbol is the Quar Ansiach, the cauldron of plenty. Legend dictates that no one ever left this magical cauldron unsatisfied, regardless of how many people were fed from it. To operate the magic of the cauldron of plenty is to deeply understand the Hermetic paradox of abundance. True wealth is generated and maintained exclusively through the continuous, unobstructed flow of generosity. The third-order insight of the cauldron is that hoarding energy, money, knowledge, or love stems from a fundamental subconscious belief in lack. By the law of mentalism, a belief in lack guarantees the manifestation of physical lack. Practitioners working with the Dagda cultivate an unshakable abundance mindset by actively blessing their current circumstances and giving freely to their communities. They become a conduit through which universal providence can flow, knowing that the source is infinite. Furthermore, the Dagda wields the Lorg Maw, a massive club that is so heavy it requires wheels to drag, and possesses the power to kill 9 men with one end and restore the slain to life with the other. This is the ultimate mythic expression of the Hermetic law of polarity. For the practitioner, the club represents the absolute necessity of boundaries and sovereign power. True kindness and abundance, the cauldron, cannot exist safely without the capacity to ruthlessly enforce one's boundaries and destroy toxic, parasitic attachments, the club. The Dagda teaches that harmlessness and passivity are not virtues. True virtue is possessing the capacity for immense power and destruction, yet consciously choosing to use that power to protect, heal, and maintain structural order in one's life and community. Brigid is perhaps the most complex, resilient, and widely venerated deity in the Celtic Pantheon. She is the triple goddess of healing, poetry, and smithcraft. As a solar deity, her essence is the transformative fire that burns away the dross of the unrefined self, providing the vital energy required for inner healing and spiritual evolution. She is arguably the most adaptable figure in Celtic history, seamlessly transitioning from an ancient pagan goddess to a revered Christian saint, demonstrating the very adaptability and growth mindset she imparts to her modern followers. Esoterically, Brigid's 3 primary domains represent a complete, holistic system of spiritual alchemy that the practitioner can apply to any life challenge. 1. The Forge, smithcraft. This represents the transmutation of dense, heavy experiences, the base metals of trauma, hardship, and failure, into the sharpened steel of wisdom and resilience. When the practitioner is subjected to the intense heat and pressure of life's challenges, they do not succumb to despair. Instead, they invoke Brigid's Forge to utilize that intense pressure for structural realignment, shaping their character into a more powerful form. 2. The Sacred Well, healing. Representing the element of water, the well is the repository for the subconscious mind and the emotional body. Brigid's waters heal the practitioner after the rigors of the forge, washing away lingering resentments, cooling the temper, and allowing for deep cellular purification. Pilgrims historically visited her wells to seek blessings for physical ailments, understanding that the water carried immense restorative energy. 3. The Flame of Inspiration, poetry, afiliacht. This represents the mastery of language and the capacity to articulate the newly transformed self into being. Poetry in the ancient Celtic world was not merely artistic expression, it was a highly disciplined legal and magical framework capable of altering reality and conferring wisdom. To integrate the archetype of Brigid is to fundamentally refuse the identity of the victim. When the practitioner works with Brigid, they take the raw, painful materials of their suffering, heat them in the fires of their own conscious awareness, and forge them into a tool of supreme empowerment, echoing her cosmic capacity for infinite transformation. Lu, known by the epithets Sav Ildanach, the equally skilled in many arts, and La Aada, of the long arm or long hand, is the archetype of unparalleled mastery, strategic foresight, and boundless human potential. In the mythological cycle, Lu gains entry to the court of Tara not by possessing a single unique skill, but by proving to the gatekeeper that he possesses all of them simultaneously. He is the warrior, the harper, the poet, the historian, the smith, and the sorcerer. For the modern seeker, Lu represents the ultimate manifestation of the growth mindset. The psychological application of Lu is the absolute rejection of the fixed mindset, the false, limiting belief that one's talents, intelligence, and capabilities are static and unchangeable. Lu teaches that the most elegant solution is always superior to brute force, that wit outmaneuvers rage, and that continuous, dedicated, lifelong learning is the highest form of spiritual practice. His ultimate victory over his monstrous grandfather, Balor of the Evil Eye, during the Battle of Meg Turid, contains a profound esoteric lesson. Balor's eye destroys everything it looks upon, symbolizing the toxic, paralyzing inner critic, inherited generational trauma, and the destructive power of pure cynicism. Lu defeats Balor not with overwhelming chaotic rage, but with a single, perfectly aimed sling stone that drives the eye out the back of Balor's head. This demonstrates the Hermetic law of cause and effect in action. Precise, focused, highly disciplined intention, the sling stone, can dismantle massive, seemingly insurmountable internal blocks and external obstacles. Balor. The practitioner invokes Lu to cultivate unshakable mental focus, to master the mundane and magical arts equally, and to strike at the root of their own limiting beliefs with surgical, unapologetic precision. The Morrigan, the formidable phantom queen, is the complex goddess of prophecy, battle, magic, fate, and sovereignty. Often appearing as a trinity of aspects, such as Anu, Maka, and Bod, who take the form of ravens over the battlefield, she represents the fierce, unapologetic guardianship of one's energetic, emotional, and physical territory. In modern esoteric practice, the Morrigan is the primary initiator of shadow work. The shadow, as defined by Jungian psychology, contains all the repressed, ignored, or socially unacceptable aspects of the self, including anger, grief, sexual desire, and the capacity for violence. The modern spiritual community often falls victim to a phenomenon known as spiritual bypassing, or toxic positivity, wherein these darker emotions are suppressed in the superficial pursuit of an artificial state of love and light. The Morrigan shatters this dangerous illusion. The third-order insight of working with the Morrigan is the profound realization that true, unshakable sovereignty cannot be achieved until the practitioner integrates their capacity for destruction and righteous anger. If the warrior energy is repressed out of fear, it curdles into a toxic, passive-aggressive powerlessness, leaving the practitioner an exile in the occupied territory of their own life, unable to enforce boundaries or stand up to injustice. Conversely, if the shadow is allowed to run rampant without discipline, the practitioner becomes a tyrant, addicted to the conflict to validate their existence, acting as an agent of chaos. The Morrigan demands the razor's edge of the middle path, the conscious, disciplined integration of the shadow. She guides the practitioner through the terrifying landscape of their own psyche, using alchemy of crisis to burn away dependencies on external validation, ultimately forging an unbreakable core of personal sovereignty, fierce compassion, and resilience. To effectively channel the immense energies of the Pantheon and apply the Hermetic laws, the practitioner must understand the energetic anatomy of the human soul according to the indigenous Celtic tradition. Just as the Eastern yogic traditions utilize the chakra system and Qigong relies on the Dantian centers, the ancient Irish mystical teachings center on the three cauldrons, Na Trí Qua, as detailed in the medieval text The Cauldron of Posse, attributed to the legendary bard Imogen. These three cauldrons act as the primary energetic reservoirs of the body, storing, processing, and activating physical, emotional, and spiritual energies. Understanding their orientation, function, and how they interact is crucial for any practitioner seeking genuine esoteric development and harmony. 1. The cauldron of warming, incubation, Kwa Gorath. Located in the lower belly or pelvis, this foundational cauldron is born upright in every human being. It contains the primal life force, physical health, the instinct for biological survival, and the ancestral foundation of the individual. It is the biological anchor that allows the soul to safely and fully incarnate into the physical plane. Esoterically, when the cauldron of warming is depleted through exhaustion, chronic stress, poor diet, or physical neglect, the higher cauldrons cannot function optimally. Spiritual growth must, therefore, begin with radical, uncompromising care for the physical vessel. 2. The cauldron of vocation, motion, Kwa Ermai. Located in the center of the chest, the heart space, this cauldron is born tilted on its side. It contains the capacity for emotional intelligence, the processing of grief and joy, and the individual's dynamic interaction with the external world. Crucially, this cauldron is turned upright not through passive meditation, but through the active, visceral, often painful experiences of human life. It is filled by the deep sorrow of loss, the ecstatic heights of love, and the profound courage required to pursue one's true vocation in the face of adversity. Attempting to bypass human emotion prevents this cauldron from holding the waters of inspiration. One must feel deeply to practice magic effectively. 3. The cauldron of knowing, or wisdom, Kwa Swa. Located in the head, this highest cauldron is born completely upside down in the average person. It is the ultimate vessel for divine inspiration, Awin, cosmic knowing, and prophetic vision, Imbas. It can only be turned upright through rigorous spiritual discipline, profound realization, and the grace of the divine. The mechanism of operation is sequential. When the practitioner cares for their body, the cauldron of warming boils over, its steam rising to heat the cauldron of vocation. As the individual processes their emotions and embraces life, the cauldron of vocation flips upright, sending energy to flip the cauldron of knowing upright, allowing it to catch the divine light pouring down from the cosmos. The conscious integration of these cauldrons ensures that the practitioner remains firmly grounded in the earth, warming, deeply connected to the struggles and joys of humanity, vocation, and radically open to the guidance of the heavens, knowing. In the pursuit of sovereignty and an expansive growth mindset, the practitioner requires a reliable mechanism to bypass the logical, rational mind and communicate directly with the subconscious and the underlying energetic matrix of the universe. The Ogham, the ancient Celtic alphabet, characterized by linear strokes carved into stone or wood along a central stem line, serves as a profound divinatory tool for this exact purpose. While academic debate continues regarding the exact historical usage of Ogham for divination by the ancient Druids, as much of our evidence comes from later mythological texts rather than direct archaeological proof of sortilege, its modern esoteric application is undeniably potent and authentic to the spirit of the tradition. Ogham operates on the Hermetic principle of correspondence. The physical casting or drawing of the Theta, letters, staves, perfectly mirrors the hidden energetic currents shaping the practitioner's reality at that precise moment. Each letter is associated with a specific tree, drawing on the characteristics of that tree to grant profound insights into human nature and universal forces. Baith, birch, the first letter of the Ogham alphabet, it symbolizes purification, clear intention, and the inception of new journeys. In practice, drawing bathe indicates the absolute necessity of cleansing the mind and the physical space before attempting to manifest new realities. It is the blank slate required for true creation. Louis, Rowan, associated with the sacred flame, deep healing, and herbalism, it acts as an energetic ward against hostile, parasitic forces and represents the awen, the spark of enlightenment and inspiration. Hwth, hawthorn, the tree of the threshold, heavily associated with the fairy faith, protection, and the boundaries of the Irish otherworld. Hawthorn requires the practitioner to step into their deepest inner strength to undergo a profound spiritual journey, acting as a prickly but necessary catalyst for deep psychological and circumstantial change. The specific sortilege spread, laid out in a spiral moving outward from the center, maps the practitioner's journey from internal incubation to external manifestation. It can be performed with the Om staves, tarot cards, or runes, demonstrating the cross-cultural adaptability of esoteric techniques. Position 1. Center. Meaning, the current situation. Esoteric function and application identifies the baseline energetic state of the practitioner. It shows where the cauldron of warming currently resides. Position 2. Meaning, the obstacle. Esoteric function and application reveals the subconscious block limiting belief or shadow element preventing forward momentum and growth. Position 3. The next step. Esoteric function and application, the immediate, practical, actionable behavior required to bypass or transmute the obstacle. Position 4. Meaning, the connection. Esoteric function and application, a relationship, an archetypal deity, or a community aspect to actively cultivate for energetic support. Position 5. Meaning, habit to strengthen. Esoteric function and application, the mundane discipline or magical ritual that requires reinforcement to maintain rhythm. Position 6. Meaning, what to end. Esoteric function and application, the toxic attachment, limiting belief, or draining environment to sever, utilizing the ruthless energy of Dagda's club or the Morrigan. Position 7. Meaning, what to begin. Esoteric function and application, the new archetype, perspective, or skill set to integrate, invoking Lu's mastery. Position 8. Meaning, sign to watch for. Esoteric function and application, the synchronistic manifestation in this physical world confirming alignment with the newly chosen path. Position 9. Outer edge. Meaning, the final message. Esoteric function and application, the overarching spiritual truth delivered by the higher self or guiding deities, completing the spiral out into the world. For the advanced practitioner seeking mastery, simple divination must eventually evolve into direct, unmediated revelation. The Irish texts speak of a state called imbas forasnai, translated as illumination by inspiration, or knowledge that illuminates. This was the highest practice of the Philia, seers and poets, allowing them to access clairvoyance, distance viewing, prophetic insight, and direct communion with the divine forces. The mechanics of imbas forasnai are essentially sophisticated techniques of sensory deprivation and deep trance induction. Historical accounts, such as those involving the chewing of raw meat or laying beneath animal hides, point to a methodology of shutting off the external sensory inputs. By withdrawing from the external world, often by laying in complete darkness, covering the eyes, or chanting specific rhythmic incantations, the practitioner intentionally shifts their brainwave state from the waking, analytical beta frequency to the deep, hypnagogic, intuitive theta frequency. This biological shift aligns perfectly with the Hermetic principle of vibration. By lowering the frequency of the physical body to a state of near sleep, the practitioner liberates the consciousness, raising the frequency of the astral and mental bodies. This allows the mind to interface directly with the higher order intelligible structures of the universe, what Jung would call the collective unconscious, and what the Celtic traditions identify as the other world. The modern application of Mbos Forestni does not require the literal ancient rituals of animal sacrifice mentioned in the mythological texts, which were culturally specific to an Iron Age agrarian society. Rather, it requires the psychological mechanism of profound, undisturbed sensory withdrawal combined with fierce, focused intention. This practice effectively turns the cauldron of knowing fully upright, allowing the Mbos, the illuminating inspiration, to flow freely, granting the practitioner the profound insights necessary to navigate complex life challenges with absolute clarity. Theoretical knowledge of the Pantheon, the cauldrons, and the Hermetic laws must be grounded in consistent physical action to yield tangible results. The practitioner establishes their reality through ritual, the physical, symbolic coding of the subconscious mind. What one does consistently becomes the architecture of their life. In the Celtic tradition, space is not artificially forced into sacredness. Rather, its inherent sacredness is recognized, uncovered, and protected through relationship. The practice of seining, blessing and sanctifying, is the primary method of clearing a space or a person of dense, stagnant, or hostile energies. Seining is traditionally performed using the smoke of sacred herbs like juniper, the sprinkling of water from a holy well, or the lighting of a flame. By seining the physical environment, the practitioner enacts the Hermetic law of correspondence. The clearing of the external physical space directly correlates to the clearing of the internal mental space. It creates an energetic vacuum that can then be deliberately filled with the energies of abundance, harmony, and sovereign will. For practitioners familiar with ceremonial magic, seining serves the exact same preparatory function as the lesser banning ritual of the pentagram, LBRP, or the Kabbalistic cross and middle pillar exercises, establishing a protected, balanced sphere of operation before deeper magic is undertaken. To actively invoke the energy of the Dagda's cauldron and cultivate a growth mindset, the practitioner must train their mind to expect prosperity and recognize the magic inherent in the mundane. The Celtic tradition places a heavy emphasis on blessing the ordinary tasks of the day, as evidenced in collections like the Carmina Gadelica, blessing the steam rising from a cup of coffee, the warmth of a hearth, or the completion of a workday programs the subconscious to constantly seek and acknowledge abundance, thereby attracting more of it. A highly effective modern synthesis of ritual magic, psychological conditioning, and Celtic abundance principles is the abundance check ritual. Within 24 hours of the new moon, aligning with the Hermetic law of rhythm and the cosmic tide of growth, the practitioner physically writes a check to themselves. They fill the amount with paid in full or a specific believable sum and sign it from the universe or the Dagda. This is not mere wishful thinking, it is a profound application of the law of mentalism. By physically writing the check and placing it on an altar or in a wallet, the practitioner bypasses the logical mind's resistance to wealth. Coupled with the spoken affirmation, "I welcome and manifest abundance in all areas of my life," The ritual aligns the conscious intention with subconscious expectation. The crucial final step, mirroring the endless generosity of the Quar Ansiask, is that the practitioner must simultaneously engage in an act of physical generosity, giving freely of their time, energy, or resources to their community, thereby activating the energetic circuit of receiving through giving, proving to their own psyche that they dwell in a state of overflow. To truly integrate this immense volume of esoteric knowledge, the intellect must eventually surrender to the experiential realm. Knowledge remains mere philosophy until it is felt within the body. The following guided contemplation is designed to be experienced by the listener in a safe, quiet environment, bringing this episode of the Library of Divine Echoes to its transformative conclusion. The practitioner is provided to prepare their space, perhaps dimming the lights, lighting a candle to honor the transformative fire of Bridget, and sitting or lying in a position of ultimate, undisturbed comfort. Close your eyes, allowing the physical body to settle deeply, heavily, into the unwavering support of the earth beneath you. Bring your awareness to the breath, simply observing the natural, effortless rhythm of inhalation and exhalation. There is no need to change it. Simply watch the tide of the breath flow in and out, honoring the Hermetic law of rhythm. With each prolonged breath out, the dense, heavy energies of the mundane world, the anxieties of the day, and the rigidities of the mind are released into the ground, where the earth gladly receives, neutralizes, and composts them. In the theater of the mind's eye, visualize the great Cran Bethard, the tree of life, its massive trunk representing the central axis of the universe. Feel your own energetic roots extend downward from the base of the spine, piercing the floor, moving through the topsoil, down through the bedrock, deep into the dark, silent, nourishing waters of the underworld. Here in the quiet dark of the physical body, the cauldron of warming rests in the pelvis. Breathe deeply into the lower abdomen, feeling this cauldron stabilize, growing warm, glowing with a deep, steady, ember-red light. The physical vessel is safe. The ancestral foundation is secure. Survival is assured. As the vital energy rises from these deep roots, it travels up the spine into the center of the chest. Envision yourself standing before the blazing, magnificent forge of the goddess Bridget. The heat of the forge is intense, yet it is deeply comforting, a fire that purifies rather than destroys. Into the sacred fire, consciously throw your fears, your imposter syndrome, your limiting beliefs, and your stagnant grief. The flames of Bridget consume the dross, burning away all that is false and leaving only the pure, indestructible gold of the true self. As the dense energy burns, it releases a brilliant, transformative steam that rises to fill the heart space. The cauldron of vocation, resting in the chest, gently tilts fully upright, overflowing with the golden waters of compassion, emotional resilience, and fearless sovereignty. The heart is open, ready to engage with the world without fear. Step away from the forge, walking through a threshold of ancient hawthorn trees, entering a lush, sunlit, boundless clearing where the dog-dove awaits. The All-Father smiles, his immense presence radiating absolute abundance, joy, and terrestrial power. He gestures towards the Quar Antiask, the massive cauldron of plenty, bubbling with endless, life-giving nourishment. Approach and drink deeply from the cauldron. As the liquid is consumed, an overwhelming cellular sensation of absolute enoughness permeates every fiber of your being. The scarcity mindset dissolves into the ether. You understand at the deepest subconscious level that the universe is perpetually conspiring in your favor. There is nothing to fear. There is only one infinite provision waiting to be claimed. In the background, standing beside the cauldron, the doctor plucks a single resonant earth-shattering chord on his living oak harp. The profound vibration of the chord ripples through the clearing, travels through the roots of the earth, and echoes up into your mind. The Hermetic law of vibration hums in the blood. The frequency of the mind elevates, shedding the last remnants of lower density thought. The cauldron of knowing, located in the head, slowly rights itself, forming a pristine, empty, receptive chalice. From the vast starry cosmos above, the Awen descends. 3 rays of brilliant, piercing, pure white light strike the crown of the head, filling the cauldron of knowing with the embas, the illuminating light of foresight, clarity, and divine wisdom. You are now fully aligned, deeply rooted in the earth, expansive and courageous in the heart, and radically open to the heavens. The 3 cauldrons are perfectly stacked, vibrating in a unified, unbreakable column of sovereign power. Remain in this state of divine equilibrium, absorbing the archetypal codes of mastery, resilience, and abundance. There is nothing to do, nothing to fix, and nowhere to be. All is mind, and the mind is currently at profound peace within the inviolable sanctuary of the inner grove. When the integration is complete, slowly, gently deepen your breath. Draw awareness back down from the cosmos, down the spine, grounding once more in the physical room. Wiggle your fingers and toes, anchoring the profound astral experience firmly into the material body. Open your eyes, returning to the waking world fundamentally altered, deeply empowered, and overflowing with the living magic of the ancients, ready to face any challenge with the mastery of Lu and the fierce grace of the Morrigan. The pursuit of spiritual growth is not a flight from the realities, challenges, and responsibilities of the material world, but a profound deepening into the mysteries that govern it. Through the contemplative space of the Library of Divine Echoes, the modern seeker discovers that the ancient Celtic Pantheon, the abundant Dogda, the transformative Bridget, the masterful Lu, and the sovereign Morrigan are not distant relics of a forgotten age. They are accessible, dynamic frequencies of psychological and magical power waiting to be awakened within the architecture of the human soul. By mapping the timeless, resonant narratives of the Celts onto the structural, universal precision of the Hermetic principles, the practitioner equips themselves with an infallible operating system for reality. They learn to wield wield the Awen to shape their mental landscape, the Dagda's cauldron to magnetize unceasing abundance, and the Morrigan's fierce sovereignty to stand unshakable amidst the inevitable storms of life. Ultimately, true esoteric mastery is the profound realization that the seeker themselves is the ultimate cauldron, possessing the innate, divine capacity to transform the raw, chaotic elements of existence into the pure, refined gold of a harmonious, abundant, and radically empowered life.